Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Joke Rogers here in Lagos. We begin in South Africa, where a mob has attacked and killed a patient in an ambulance on suspicion of committing a crime. Paramedics have responded to calls for medical assistance after the man was injured in a mob attack. At the scene, they initiated treatment to prepare to transport the patient to the nearest hospital. According to the health department, that's when community members started throwing stones and barricaded in the road to prevent the ambulance from leaving, demanding justice on the spot. Unfortunately, the patient was further fatally assaulted while on the ambulance stretcher. The ambulance was extensively damaged and medical equipment stolen. Staying in South Africa, where public servants have embarked on a nationwide march in 8 provinces, demanding a double-digit wage increase. This follows a deadlock in wage negotiations between trade unions and the government. The government's decision to unilaterally implement a 3% baseline increase prompted the Public Servants Association to hold a one-day public service strike last Thursday, demanding a better wage offer and ending job cuts in the public service. Our South Africa correspondent, Brian Pugeni, has more on the latest action.
Several South African trade unions representing public workers have embarked on a national shutdown strike in protest of a wage increase demanding about 10%, while government continues to offer a 3% increase. Here in Pretoria, workers marched through the streets to the office of the National Treasury.
When they went to Parliament, when they were presenting a budget, workers were at the PSCP said the conciliation. We are not represented in Parliament, but they announced our bargaining rights there. They announced our wages there. They end up saying to the public, actually, Ribazami.
We are saying that this 3%, it is not applicable, especially with the rise cost of living. We are saying that 10% is the way to go, and then we are saying that we are appealing to the government to come back to the collective bargaining table so that we can be able to engage in a proper way. Failure to which, today it is just the beginning. If they don't want to take us seriously, we will go back, mobilize even those that are not in this platform, so that when we take it to the street, the impact will be felt.
Minister of Labour Thulas Nesi received a hostile welcome from workers who showed their anger at the decision taken by government to stick with their 3% wage increase. The protesting workers refused to hear what the minister had to say.
Do you want to hear the minister responding, or you don't want to hear?
The minister received the memorandum, but the protesters had their way as the minister did not talk and left.
We want to protect the rights of workers side by side with them, not sending them to go and fight only and we join them on the point of victory, but we want to be with them from now throughout until their victories are won. And we guarantee the workers that as long as they are united, they will win. There's no government that can fight against workers. These are the creators of wealth in society.
We hope today they will listen, because thousands marched here on the 10th and thousands are coming here today. Obviously, the president, Ramaphosa, who is a former trade unionist, will listen to the plight of workers and come to the party to engage us as union leaders so that we find amicable solution to this problem.
After handing over their memorandum of demands, the unions say if these demands are not met in 7 days, they will again take to the streets, and there is a possibility of an indefinite strike to finally get what is owed to workers. From Pretoria, South Africa, Brian Pugeni, Channels Television News.
While all that was going on outside of South Africa, the President Cyril Ramaphosa has called on the British government to support his country in its response to climate change. He said developed nations like the United Kingdom should take responsibility for their role in the current climate crisis and assist countries that cannot afford to pay for the cost of addressing climate change. President Ramaphosa, who was in the UK on an official state visit, told a joint UK Parliament sitting that the assistance should come in the form of concessional loans and grants.
Nowhere is the need to tackle inequality more important than in our response to climate change. Those countries that carry the least responsibility for global warming are the most vulnerable to its effect. They do not have the resources needed to adapt to drought, floods, and rising sea levels. And as they seek to grow, as they seek to industrialize and to diversify their economies, their energy needs will increase and the space they have to reduce emissions will keep on narrowing. This places a responsibility on the more industrialized nations of the world to contribute substantial resources to low and medium income countries to fund their climate actions. And this should not be seen as charity. It is compensation for the harm done and the harm yet to be done to people in developing economies as a consequence of the industrialization that wealthy countries have had over many years. And because a global reduction in emissions benefits all countries and all people, it is also necessary that investment should be made for the future of humanity, as it will benefit all.
Well, earlier, President Ramaphosa was shown an exhibition of royal collection artworks related to South Africa, as well as photographs of royal visits to the country, including of the late Queen Elizabeth meeting with former South African President Nelson Mandela. Mr. Ramaphosa was scheduled to visit Westminster Abbey to lay a wreath at the tomb of the unknown warrior and see the memorial stone for Mr. Mandela. Later on, King Charles hosted a banquet in his honor where he rolled out the traditional pomp and ceremony as Britain sought to bolster its relations with its biggest trading partner in Africa. Britain hopes the visits, which had been planned before the death of Queen Elizabeth in September, will strengthen trade and investment ties between the two nations and show the importance of links with the Commonwealth of Nations. The last state visit to Britain by any South African leader was made by President Jacob Zuma in 2010.
It is only by working together across our countries and our generations that we will tackle some of the greatest challenges of our times. For instance, our collaboration in science and innovation is literally vital in order to protect our people's health by preparing for future pandemics. Perhaps, above all, we must find and implement practical solutions to the twin existential threats of climate change and biodiversity loss.
In times of uncertainty and instability, a relationship such as ours is particularly important. We are urged and, in a way, compelled by our common commitment to peace, stability, democracy, and shared prosperity to work together to overcome the difficulties of the present and prepare ourselves for the challenges of the future.
Elsewhere in Ghana, President Nana Akufo-Addo has warned that terrorist groups represent a southward drift of the menace from the Sahel to coastal West Africa as they seek new operation grounds. West African leaders and European ministers are in Ghana's capital, Accra, to discuss regional solutions to the insurgency that's spreading as foreign troops pull out from Mali, where militants have seized vast areas. Mali, where West Africa's insurgency took root in 2012, has been at odds with regional governments, Western powers, and the United Nations peacekeeping mission since a militant government that seized power in an August 2020 coup failed to hold promised elections. France, there were concerns that military withdrawals from Mali will create a security vacuum in an area where groups linked to Al-Qaeda and Islamic State and neighbors move to the Sahel.
We continue to watch in angst how the activities of terrorist and extremist groups have resulted in the unfortunate disregard for the national sovereignty and territorial integrity of our states, the painful deterioration of the strength of our democracies, the wanton displacement of masses of our populations, and the needless loss of considerable numbers of lives. Today, the terrorist groups, emboldened by their apparent success in the region, are seeking new operational grounds, a development that has triggered a southward drift of the menace from the Sahel to coastal West Africa.
The terrorist objectives are well known to us to threaten the very existence of your societies and countries. And this situation calls for rapid mobilizations from regional partners and from the entire international community, because your fight against terrorism is our fight too.
Hundreds of cargo trucks are stuck on the Ugandan side of Ishasa border. The border crossing as fighting intensifies in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo. Some of the trucks have been stuck at the border for 3 weeks for fear of insecurity in DR Congo. Ugandan exports to the DR Congo are valued at over $300 million, and Ishasha is one of the main crossings between the two countries. A trader was forced to sell some of his dried fish cargo locally at throwaway prices and is still stuck with some 40 tons in a store at the border. He brought the cargo to the border in late October after sourcing it from Uganda's Lake Kyoga in the east. Fighting between the Congolese government and the M23 rebels has intensified in recent weeks, with the rebels capturing more territory. The M23 are set to be advancing on several fronts and have been sighted about 35 kilometers from Ishasha border. Efforts to bring peace to eastern DR Congo are being championed by East African community leaders as well as Angolan president who is hosting a summit in the capital, Luanda. And residents in remote areas of western Ethiopia say children have been dying from a measles outbreak for the past few months as there's still little access to hospitals. Roadblocks erected as a result of the ongoing conflict in the region have hampered movement. The federal government has been fighting a deadly insurgency in western Oromia, a stronghold of the Oromo Liberation Army. The authorities say they were trying to reach out to those affected. Measles is highly contagious and can cause serious illness, which can sometimes be fatal. In a recent report, the UN said the humanitarian situation in Western Oromia region remains complex, with hundreds of thousands displaced due to the conflicts. Welcome back to the program. The Secretary General of the International Maritime Organization is seeking stronger ties between Nigeria and his home country, Korea. The IMO boss is visiting Nigeria for the first time as helmsman of the organization and the second time by any IMO boss in the last 15 years. Our correspondent, Timothy Crown Adirigube, reports.
The last time any Secretary General of the International Maritime Organization visited Nigeria was in 2007, but incumbent IMO boss Ketak Lim is visiting the country for the first time in 15 years. The #1 global citizen in the maritime environment is in Nigeria to attend the Nigeria International Maritime Summit 2022, where regional policies and operational perspectives on decarbonization and greenhouse gas emissions in shipping is the focus. sideline of his visit, Mr. Lim inspects some projects by the Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency, including the Regional Safety and Security Center of Excellence, named after him. Inside the building is an ongoing training for some participants from 9 other countries, which Nigeria superintends. From all his touched and seen, the Maritime Sector Chief sounds impressed with Nigeria.
And I've been communicating with the Minister of Transportation in Nigeria. I was very, very impressed to see the leadership. It is a thorough model of soft leadership.
Even the Minister of Transportation is impressed with the state of things in the maritime sector in the country. His hope is high on Nigeria sitting on the Council of the IMO soon.
Maritime security is something that is concerned to everybody. This is the regional center looking after about 9 countries, okay? And the message really, I'm sure the Secretary General is going back to London better informed than when he came here. By the grace of God, next year, Nigeria is going to clinch that council seat, I tell you.
As he leaves Nigeria after his visit, Mr. Lim highlights Nigeria's vantage position not just to Africa, but global economy. Nigeria is one of IMO 175 member states and 3 associate members. Timothy Crown at DRBB, Channels Television News.
U.S. Consul General Will Stevens and the Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu have held a handover ceremony to celebrate the completion of the Lagos State Integrated Resource Plan to bolster the overall energy security for residents. Access to a stable and sustainable energy supply is critical for the long-term sustainable development of more than 15 million residents of Lagos State. As the most populous in Nigeria, Lagos has a predicted increase in peak electricity demand by as much as 400% by 2040. The Integrated Resource Plan will serve as a roadmap and blueprint to improve sector planning and coordination while providing guidance on Lagos State energy development requirements to stakeholders, including consumers. The plan will outline resource development plans for the next 20 years. The U.S. government's USAID and Power Africa will continue to collaborate with Lagos State to implement the plan to further support power sector planning and coordination and provide guidance to stakeholders on Lagos State power system development requirements. And your award-winning station, Channels Television, has received yet another recognition for its work, not just in the country, but on the global scene. Chairman, CEO of the Channels Media Group, Dr. John Momoh, has received an Integrity Leadership Award by the Africa Advancement Forum for the station's commitment to the continent's development in the area of professional broadcast and for setting an impeccable standard of excellence. Representing Dr. Momoh at this event, the station's Assistant General Manager in charge of operations, Mr. Kingsley Uranta, says Channels Television will continue to push the frontiers in the broadcast industry with a mandate to ensure that Nigeria and the rest of Africa is projected in positive light.
Yes, we can make a difference. Yes.
The Africa Advancement Forum Global Summit holds its first convention in Nigeria, in Lagos. The event is organized to sensitize Nigerians on becoming instrumental to bringing about the change that is desired in the nation and continent at large. Driving the discussion around change, a panel of Nigerian leaders and representatives discuss how they are able to bring about positive change amidst challenges they face as leaders and the various methods they employ in tackling them.
When we talk about transformational leadership, it is not about the individual, it's about the institutions. Now, until the institutions are strengthened, it will be soldier go, soldier come. And you will never be able to sustain any transformation. So what we need to start seeing and demanding from our leaders is not to follow the job description. The job description is our expectation. This is what we expect you to do. And then once you have done that, once you burn the drugs and then you get our taxes up, That is our expectations. We should be able to begin to look at them and begin to demand from them, what are they doing about building capacity?
Ambassador Barrister Derek. To honor the selected leaders, the awardees are called to the stage.
Here we go, it's getting close.
The chairman and CEO of Channels Media Group, Mr. John Momo, who is represented by the station's Assistant General Manager of Operations, Kingsley Oranta, receives the award for integrity in leadership.
Champions for the champions, stand up.
This award is yet another shot in the arm, for him to continue to provide inspirational leadership, which indeed is encapsulated in the way he has led Channels Media Group to become a thoroughbred professional media group. Not a flight of fancy, but one that is sure-footed to ensure that we continue to project Africa, leadership, Nigeria to the world. And of course, he believes also that excellence is not the end of the game. Excellence is actually the starting point. So with this, he will continue to push the frontiers until we get to the promised land.
Some award recipients and their representatives speak on the importance of the forum.
We are happy to see that people are actually eager for change in the country. And of course, this has enlightened people to say, okay, go get your PVC and look at what 2023 is holding up for us and vote. Vote the people of your choice and be the change that you want in the country.
We felt it was important to put a little more spotlight on the kind of leaders Nigeria and Africa should actually look out for and prepare for.
Africans across the globe believe in the promise of the continent to become a true representation of its people and a harbor for positive leadership. The emergence of the Africa Advancement Forum puts this belief at the forefront of the minds of the people and drives them into positive action towards effecting the desired change.
Well, congratulations in order there. Moving on now, a Nigerian artist is turning oil kegs to beautiful works of art. She uses her mother's old plastic containers and transforms them into portraits, which has now become her unique trademark.
Growing up, Nigerian artist Oluwajuwonlo Adeyemi saw her mother discard large plastic kegs of cooking oil used for her catering business in Lagos. Distraught at the thought of adding a waste to the sprawling dump sites in the city, where only a small fraction of waste is recycled, she turned them into masks that have become a trademark for her works of art. She cuts off the top of the keg and paints it, using the handle as a long nose and the round screw top opening as a mouth. The colorful masks then become the heads of the protagonists in her paintings, on which she uses materials such as fabric and string to add texture and dimensions.
My mom is a caterer, so she gets 5-liter, 25-liter kegs, and once she has used the oil inside, she tends to throw them away or sell them off. And I feel whenever she's throwing them away, it affects us and it pollutes our environment because we tend to see it in the gutter.
Sitting in front of her mother's catering shop, she starts by washing the plastic kegs, then cuts the top off. After that, she uses heat to melt it into a desired shape before painting. The 20-year-old first-year marketing student has exhibited twice in Lagos, and some of her pieces have sold for over $1,000.
Instead of me just painting the face, I wanted something that I can see, that I can feel, something that can look real, that will look real to other people when they see it. So I started using kegs.
For this artist, using discarded objects like her mother's oil kegs is to raise awareness about waste reduction and to show that found objects can be turned to lovely works of art.
Indeed. Well, that's it on Network Africa. I'm Joker Rogers. Bye for now.